are you doing, Lilliana?
Uh, Full of caffeine and spite, my sister. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been cooking today, literally cooking. I made some Cajun chicken and rice, and did my own homemade blend of Cajun spices, and it turned out great. So, I'm feeling good. Baked some cookies. I feel very domestic today.
Very nice. You know, I don't live that far from you. I should be over not too long. I love Cajun food.
But yeah, Liliana Young, for Indiana's 61st House District. Uh, do you want to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what you've been doing?
Yes, I am Liliana Young, coming to you from beautiful Bloomington, Indiana, and I am running for State House of Representatives, District 61, which, yes, to somebody from the YouTube chat earlier, it is the smallest House district in Indiana, and that's because Bloomington is the most liberal-leaning city in the state, and they don't want us spilling out into any other larger districts. So not only are our congressional districts already pretty gerrymandered, but our state districts are extremely gerrymandered too. Um, I am a multi-year LGBTQ leader here in Bloomington, and I also serve as the secretary of the Bloomington Monroe County Human Rights Commission, where I not only help investigate cases of discrimination in the city and negotiate settlements and accommodations. I also use my foot in the door as part of the city's executive branch to influence policy. I have been trying to work over this last year on multiple resolutions and programs that are slowly inching away. You know, we'll
Mm-hmm.
get there. And I am a democratic socialist, trying to conjure up a little bit of that Mondami magic and replace our 22-year moderate incumbent. And I think I can do it. Might be a bit of a challenge, but what's life without a challenge?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit, kind of like, what is the lay of the land? I know Matt Pierce has been in office since 2002. What is your general sense of like the community's like relationship with him, and like what kind of prompted you to want to run against him?
Well, half of the community doesn't even seem to know who he is. And that would be because, by and large, Matt does not have a very strong community presence because he doesn't really have to. He runs unopposed every term, and uh, because it's a very liberal city, he's guaranteed to be elected because he's the name on the ballot. And the rest of the half of the city mostly seems to regard him as fine, but otherwise unremarkable. It's not that I hear anybody speak ill of him. It's just most of what I hear is, yeah, he's fine. And that's about as far as anybody seems to have an opinion of him. Um, so far, the response I've gotten has been mostly positive. Although I have been told several times that Indiana will never elect a trans woman to office. Thanks for just making me even more pissed off. All you're doing is making me want to do this even more. Uh, um, the
It
more
is
you tell me I can't do something, the more I'm gonna try and prove you're wrong.
And is your sense like, just because I know you've been going around and talking with folks for a while, you've had multiple interviews from places in the district. Um, is your sense that people are more than willing to like, entertain the idea that, oh yeah, no, a trans person could in fact be elected here? Like, what is like the kind of the day-to-day in Bloomington kind of regarding trans people, I guess.
As far as I have experienced, I don't think most of the people in the city actually care about me being trans. Um, there's as far as Indiana will be accepting, Bloomington is probably the most accepting. Bloomington and Indianapolis would be the most accepting cities, I think, in the whole state. Not that there aren't other liberal enclaves in the state. Indiana is actually a much more blue state than a lot of people realize. It's just that blue has been very watered down by a lot of low voter turnout. Um, Lowest ranked voter turnout in the nation. We're really nailing it here in this state. um, but yeah, most people don't really seem to care that I'm trans. They just seem more interested in why I'm challenging Matt, which you just asked. So yeah, I'm challenging Matt because of several reasons, but the top two reasons are, first of all, I personally feel completely sick of our legislatures, be they state or federal, being dominated by people, who have nothing to lose from things not improving. We're talking about business owners and lawyers more than anything, people who are very well off. They're basically part of the capital class, whether they realize it or not. And I am a lifelong service industry worker. I don't have a college degree. I could never afford college. I wanted to, but it could never happen. I know retail and service industries inside and out. I can probably run a restaurant if I really wanted to. Um, but this is like a lot of the economy over the last several years has been transitioning more and more towards service work. We're losing pretty much everything else, especially manufacturing in most places. And so, I think I represent a very huge portion of the population that is very egregiously overlooked. And I think that people like me need to be more present in these state legislatures, especially. Um, Also, the other reason is, I have heard Matt Pierce referred to as Indiana's most effective Democrat in our state house. And I am of the opinion that while I hold no malice against the man, if he's the most effective Democrat we've got, that is a damning case against the state Democrats, and we could do a whole lot better. And more than anything, what I think doing better means being much more aggressive against the Republicans, uh, and utilizing the safety of districts like District 61. You're almost guaranteed to be reelected here if once you're the incumbent. And there's a lot of different things that I think Matt could have been doing for a long time that he hasn't been. And if I'm elected, I intend to step in and do my best to do those things.
What
Um,
are a few of the things he hasn't been doing that you're hoping to get done or to push forward?
One thing that I keep bringing up is when you have the safety of a district like this, you can afford to spend some time going into other districts that are maybe less blue, more competitive, and helping aspiring Democrats run in their districts, help boost them. I don't see Matt doing any of this, and I would absolutely do as much as I could if I held this district. Um, Also, things like controlling the bully pulpit, which I think, as far as Democrats, it's not just the federal Democrats who suck at that. It's state level Democrats in a lot of places. The Indiana Democrats largely gave up about, 18 years ago and have just kind of let the Republicans take more and more and more control. And this state actually used to be held by a Democrat governor term after term after term, and it used to be held. The state house used to be Democrat controlled term after term. We also had more state Senate Democrats. So this has been a much more blue state than it is currently, and I do believe it could be again if effort was put into it.
What do you attribute kind of that shift, or maybe even that apathy to, starting about 18 years ago? Like, what has kind of seemingly deadlocked Democrats in Indiana?
I mean, my perspective is more than anything, it's being beholden to capital. I think it's the same problem that we have in the federal Congress. Um, Most of our state Democrats, like I said a moment ago, they're business owners and they're lawyers. These are, they may not necessarily be wealthy people, but they're still largely very well off. They are considerably above the average income in Indiana. And these are not people with much of anything to lose from the state not getting any better. Almost all of our state Democrats will be completely insulated from the worst uh, uh, economic policies and the worst human rights violations. They're not going to feel it. Um, and I think because they're not going to feel it, they probably at least half of them should be removed to make way for those of us who do feel the hurt from these things. Because we're the ones who live it, and we're the ones who should be much more involved in making the policy that we have to live by.
And as you've been campaigning and interacting with folks, you mentioned something earlier, like Indiana has the worst voter turnout, and I like consistently so over a long period of time. Is that due to kind of this decoupling of like the Democrats in Indiana from kind of working class priorities? Is it due to like the decline of manufacturing that like maybe Democrats had been more attached to in the past? And just not any kind of connection with service workers? Like, where's like, is that kind of how you see it? People just have given up.
Yeah, I do think that it's that they've become disconnected from the uh we'll say the common man. And I think they've almost entirely just given up. I think that our state party Democrats as it is just doesn't really seem to see a point in really being all that aggressive in pushing back. I've been to legislative hearings at the Capitol, and I have seen some of our Democrats who are regarded as being among our most progressive and so-called best and brightest. And they just softball the hell out of Republicans during these committee hearings, and it like you can do infinitely better than what you're doing. You can find harder questions to ask in committee hearings, and you can do better at, narrativizing and for God's sake, show a little passion for your job. You're supposed to, ostensibly you're here to help make things better, but half the time I think our Democrats act like they're bored with their jobs. And um it's something that I really just cannot abide anymore.
Yeah. So for you, like, what was the motivator for you to run this time, as opposed to like, last time Matt Pierce was up for election? Like, what was kind of the trigger for you to just say, I'm going to do it this time?
I did not anticipate things getting as this bad this quickly after the last election. Um, I had actually naively thought we were going to avoid a Trump too. I should not count on anything of that sort into the future. I've learned my lesson on that one. Um, and what I've learned is that when you have a federal administration that is this hateful and corrupt and brazen and this willing to break things, it emboldens state level administrations to also be very reckless. And I've seen our state Republicans who control everything act with the most unbelievably brazen corruption I personally have ever seen in my years of being aware of politics. It's things like our governor, Mike Braun, has openly embezzled got over $200,000 of state funds to renovate his house because he won't move to Indianapolis. He
What?
refuses to govern from the governor's mansion.
That seems like it would be incredibly illegal. Like he used state funds for his own personal house
Yes.
and not like the governor's mansion. Like,
right.
wow.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, it is illegal. But our state legislature, both houses, are supermajority Republican controlled. And I have been saying for years now, and I will not move off of this, you cannot ever trust a Republican to do the right thing. You just can't. This is not a party of people who act on principle. This is a party of people who act out of pure self-interest. And our state legislature lets our governor get away with this because they don't give a shit. And he's not the only one who's done this. Our Secretary of State used state funds to buy like a $90,000 car.
Oh my God.
Our Attorney General, I believe, also did the same thing, if I remember correctly. On top of other things like squandering the state's judicial resources to target trans people constantly. Our Attorney General has a massive hard-on for attacking trans people. He does everything at every turn to try to make life miserable for us, up to and including personally intervening in every single filed case of somebody trying to amend their birth certificate. Massive waste of state resources.
And I imagine, I imagine, like, people in Indiana are pretty upset about all of these things. Like, and I know it's popular among various state governments to bash trans people. You know, you look at a number of Republican-controlled states, but like, there's an ungodly amount of resources and time dedicated to just directing bureaucratic hatred towards trans people when those resources could be spent at that time could be spent doing so many more productive things. Not to mention some of these folks, I was looking it up a little bit. The governor had a helicopter pad installed at his personal residence. That's insane. Like I was curious, like what actually did he spend it on? He bought a helicopter pad. I like that's a level of brazenness I can't. Like I imagine people are pretty upset.
Yeah, and that's among the home renovations that I mentioned. And you know, he did that because he refuses to govern from the governor's mansion in Indianapolis, but he still has to be in Indianapolis a lot to work with the state legislature. So what are you going to do? Drive 4 hours there and back every day? You know, no, just let's plunk down a whole crap ton of money on a helipad so that we can joyride back and forth. And it's not just the helipad itself, it's all, you know, the constant helicopter fuel and maintenance required, and that's all coming out of state funds too. Yeah, most of the people who are aware of this in the state are pretty upset with it. I do see a pretty regular stream of posts on Indiana subreddits and in some other places where people do complain pretty frequently. Um, so far, it hasn't amounted to enough to become any kind of a movement in the state, but I believe that's because people understand our state legislature as it is not going to move to impeach our governor, um, which is something I intend to do if I'm elected. I intend to raise absolute hell. I want our entire state government cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
I want our governor impeached and convicted and removed. I want our Secretary of State impeached, convicted, and removed. Attorney General impeached, convict, remove. Lieutenant Governor, the man constantly violates the separation of church and state. Impeach, convict, remove. I want a full cleansing. Our state needs an enema.
um so beyond like I'm noticing you're kind of setting yourself up as an anti-corruption candidate, more proactive candidate compared to the incumbent. And what are some of your other priorities if you were to get into office?
um, so my legislative platform, I was able to whittle it down to 6 primary points. Tried to do less, but Indiana is suffering so badly that I couldn't go any lower without missing out on really important stuff. Um, but yeah, uh, government accountability and transparency is one of those for sure. And among the things I've talked about, I also include, I want to see additional steps of checks and balances introduced to slow down our legislative process, including slowing down the process of executive orders from any governor, really. I want to introduce legislation that will mandate that before an executive order is signed, a governor has to have a public forum where people can directly ask him questions about it, up to like 30 minutes or something per executive order. And this won't necessarily prevent executive orders from being written, but it is something that I think is, it'll help raise a more awareness of executive orders, and it will help slow down the overall process. And I think because executive orders are still very powerful tools, it's how you direct an entire state government to doing something. And that's some people like to disregard and say, well, executive orders aren't laws. No, but they're still really fucking powerful, and I think we need something to help slow that whole process down. I want to see the state reinvest in public education. We are badly deteriorating in public education. Indiana has recently introduced a voucher program where we take state funds that would normally be applied to public schools, and we are giving them to wealthy families and letting them use state funds to pay for private schools. I want that completely done away with. If you want a private school experience, shell out for it, baby. Because, those public funds are for public education. And if you want free education, go to a public school. That's the whole point. And I want to see us get back to that. We also badly need to invest, I think, entirely separately in more school counselors. Indiana has a horrible shortage of school counselors, both for like mental health issues and for like academic career counseling. We have like one counselor for 100 students or something on the average right now. It's pretty terrible. Um, wages and worker protections. I want a state minimum wage of $20 an hour, and I'm not kidding. The $15 an hour legendary wage of yesteryear isn't going to cut it anymore. Time has moved forward. I want to see public workers be able to unionize. I don't really believe any sector of workers should not be able to unionize. If it's work worth doing, then it's also worth organizing for. Um, I want to see the state completely decriminalize marijuana. And I don't even smoke. I don't give a shit about that. I just want to see the state stop missing out on the tax revenue that every state around us gets to enjoy because we're the only state in our immediate neighborhood in which pot is still illegal, and we could be raking in so much millions and millions and millions of dollars of tax revenue that we could apply to things like fully funding state Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Medicaid is badly underfunded, as are many red states. And I mean, that pot tax revenue alone could cover all of that, I believe. And Indiana has uh, I'm forgetting the exact number, but I believe it was like 10% of our state was on Medicaid or more. It's a very high Medicaid recipient state, um, and that's a lot of people who stand to suffer from all of the shenanigans, in the Medicaid cuts from the
Yeah.
big bill and all that bullshit. Um, um,
Can I say one of
I
the policies that really stood out to me, kind of similar to what you were talking about with executive orders, needing more accountability. I really appreciate it's one of the last things on your issues page, but all officials who author state policy must be legally mandated to attend public Q&A periods before new legislation can be voted on. And I love the idea that not just the governor with his executive orders, but also like state level representatives would have to like go to these Q&A sessions to account for why they're passing legislation. I think that it's actually kind of silly that there isn't that connection already required in our system because so many people just completely check out of politics and never even get a chance to ask about the bills that are being passed.
Yeah, and I will correct myself real quick. I was just sent a message. Indiana has 27% Medicaid
Whew.
recipients. So it's worse than I remembered. Yeah, we have in our state legislative procedure, we have a public comment section where people can come in and speak for a couple of minutes about what they think of a bill when it's in committee, but that's not the same as directly engaging these legislative authors about the bills that they have filed. And I think that, because again, this is stuff that affects everybody in some capacity in the entire state. And I think that if you have authored legislation, if you believe in it enough to author it and file it, then you should be able to answer a few basic questions to the people who will be affected by it. And I want to introduce that as well into our legislative process. And again, it may not prevent some of these worst bills from getting put through, but at the very least, it will force our legislators to have to say something to the people that their laws will be affecting. Whereas as it stands now, they're not really required to say a damn thing.
I did want to ask you, how has the state Democratic Party responded to you challenging such an entrenched incumbent? Have they kind of recognized the challenge? Has your opponent here um, like recognized you at all or talked about you at all? Like, what's kind of the lay of the land politically in the race?
Um, they have not recognized me. Is the short version. Um, uh, as far as I'm aware, Matt has not publicly addressed me. Um, he should know that I'm running. I did speak to him personally shortly before I began my campaign, and I told him to his face, I want to run against you if you are planning on seeking re-election. And we had maybe a half-hour conversation or something, and he just asked a couple of basic questions. Oh, what do you think I could do better? Uh-huh. Okay, that's interesting. He did not show much emotion one way or another. Very stoic fella. And I wasn't really expecting much. Um, I, what I hoped for, and what I still hope for, is that Matt would be willing to take his experience and mentor me, teach me some of the legislative ins and outs that I would otherwise have to learn from being in there. I'd love to be able to hit the ground running a little better. But other than that, there hasn't really been any real reaction from the state party that I'm aware of. Uh, I am aware of some small whispers, I think, on the county party are a little displeased with me, partially because I've never voted in a primary, and also because some people think that I haven't sufficiently waited for my turn enough. Um, to which I will say, well, first of all, if you want people to vote in primaries, then you should have more than one person on the primary ticket. And that's the reason why I've never engaged with our local primaries. There hasn't been a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's Matt runs unopposed, so why would I show up for that? Um, and as far as waiting my turn, baby girl, this is my turn, and I'm taking it right now.
um and so far you've had a lot, not too much of a not too many interactions with the state level party. What has been your reception on the ground? Earlier you mentioned people seemed relatively receptive to messaging. What have people been most interested in when you tell them about your campaign positions?
Um, there doesn't seem to be any one thing that's standing out to people. I think what I have heard most is people reacting, oh, wow, that's a very common sense platform. And I'm not really sure why our other state Democrats aren't pushing for that. And I don't personally like the phrase common sense. My personal take on common sense is that it's a crutch that people fall back on when they won't critically think. But I will say that I find it interesting still that people seem to regard my primary platform as being kind of a no-brainer, which and this is even coming from people who will also say, I'm not really sure if I want to vote for a socialist, but the platform seems very common sense to me. So, even if they have some misgivings about my, being a crazy far leftist, they do seem to think that my general platform is a good idea. More than that, though, I have so far received a significant uh, feedback from people in the city who are impressed or surprised that I am as involved as I am trying to be in the city. Not both as a commissioner, so I am actually working for the city every day, but I've also been running a food drive with my campaign, and people seem impressed by that, and that's very strange to me. I feel like if you're running to represent this district, you should be involved with it on a ground level. Otherwise, I don't fathom a point.
So, what has the response been to the food drive?
Very positive. I've gotten a handful of emails from people who have thanked me for it. The way that I've been running it is I pick a neighborhood, I hoof it around, I leave a grocery bag at people's door. It's got a letter explaining what's going on, and then I come back at a written date to pick it up. And a couple of times people have like stapled little notes to the bag saying, "Hey, thanks for doing this," which very sweet. Um, I've even run into a few people, like in particular, there was one night about a week ago. I was out later than normal. It was sunset, and I apparently startled some poor lady at her home, and I'm setting the bag down in front of her door, and she comes zipping around the side of her house, uh, asking, "Who the hell are you?" And
Oh
I'm so,
no.
hold on, and I'm just here running a food drive. I'm Lilliana, and as soon as I said who I was, she's, "Oh, I've seen your posts on Reddit. I know all about you. This is so cool to meet you." Oh, okay. uh, you know, I me wearing my all black out after dark, leaving things at people's doors. Maybe I'm not going to do that again. But otherwise, it's been a very positive reception.
And what posts on Reddit would she have known you from?
I've made a handful of things. I've had a couple of posts talking about my food drive. There's there's a dedicated Bloomington subreddit, as well as a general Indiana subreddit. I have posted some, "Hi, I'm running. This is what I'm about" posts. I've one or two AMA posts. So I've had a handful. Um, if she or anybody frequents these subreddits at all, you would have seen at least a couple of them by now, I'm sure.
You are doing the food drive. You're posting on social media. You're clearly active. I saw you did an interview with like the local university newspaper, student newspaper. Um, what is kind of your campaign strategy so far?
I am trying to take a page from people like Kat Abagazala and Zoran Mamdani. I want to be as involved as I possibly can be on that ground level. I want to be out there talking to people face to face. I want to use my campaign resources to try and do something good and positive, when I actually have the opportunity to. I, um, I want to try to show people that politicians aren't just about dressing nice and going to a Capitol building, that ideally we are people of the community that we're running to represent, and are there as a part of that community. And that's what I am hoping is going to resonate with people more than anything.
And if you win, when you win, um, do you have many allies or people who could potentially be allies in the state house?
Ideally, I would hope that the entire Democrat caucus would work with me. I'm not afraid to call out Democrats on their bullshit. I mean, if you want to look at my blue sky, I've even torn into state hometown hero Pete Buttigieg on numerous occasions. But they're a little more specifically, there are actually several different candidates across the state running for state house to be on the Democrat caucus in this term. And we only need to flip 4 seats to pull supermajority from the Republicans, but I believe I am aware of, I want to say 8 candidates, and there might even be more. Um, and some of them are considerably further left than is typical for our state Democrats. And so I'm hoping that this whole aspiring group that's running would be much more willing to get in there and really take the fight to the Republicans with me.
Yeah, that does in fact I am hopeful that potentially after you win, you'd be able to build those bridges with the rest of the Democratic Party. I there is a sinking feeling in my chest that perhaps these are people who are going to recognize you as more of an enemy for taking out one of their own. But um, you seem willing to fight that fight, and I like that about you. Um, and I wanted to ask, like, what are kind of your biggest needs as a campaign? Kind of when you look around, like what do you kind of need? Is it funds? Is it volunteers to meet different needs? Like what can people do if they are interested in helping you win the state house?
Yes to both. Unfortunately, and this is the part that I am incredibly uncomfortable with. I don't even like asking, my dad for money if we're having a really bad month here in the household. But yes, I do unfortunately need campaign donations because that's just how this shit works right now. So if somebody's got $5 or $10 to spare, it's $5 or $10 more than what I had to work with, and I deeply appreciate that. I do absolutely need campaign volunteers. If you don't live in or near Bloomington, you could still help remotely. I can always use help with things like I'm trying to put together a more active research team. Researching all the specifics on these different policies can take a lot of time, and the more people I have who can help me with that, the better. Um, I could definitely use help here in the city if you happen to live in or near Bloomington and you're willing to help me hoof it around for some things. Like I'm going to be extending my food drive into December, and I can cover a lot more ground if I had some people who are more able-bodied. Um, I might be able to use the help of maybe a video editor if somebody is able to donate time and skill. I can do video editing myself, but it's a very slow process for me. On top of everything else, it does kind of bog me down. Yeah, you can email me through my campaign website, and I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody who wants to reach out. Um, as far as the Riverboat gang goes, shout out because you people are amazing. I do hang out in Jack's Discord, so you can also find me there and DM me directly if you want to. And besides those things, I suppose a lot of good karma could well wishes would also not be a bad thing. Thoughts and prayers. It works really well for Republicans.
And I did want to ask one last thing I forgot to ask earlier. What is your relationship with Indiana DSA? Like are they pitching in to help at all?
There are two local DSA chapters. There's the Central Indiana DSA and the Bloomington DSA. Um, I I have been relatively active with the Bloomington DSA. I am putting together a formal proposal for them right now. Our Bloomington chapter has had some growing pains. Um, they've it had previously actually become entirely defunct and only rebuilt in this last year. So they've been struggling a little, but their numbers are growing rapidly, and their newly elected chapter leadership, I think, are really promising, and I'm really looking forward to working with them. I've talked to members face to face, like outside of chapter meetings directly, and most of them do seem to feel pretty positive about my campaign. Um, I've had the chance to meet with Central Indiana DSA once, but those meetings are over an hour out from me, and they're a lot harder to get to. So I would like to be more involved with them, but that's a little bit of a struggle. Cross your fingers, maybe I can get out there more often. But they still have had a pretty positive response. I'm actually continuing to find people in different places who will message me or email me or pop up somewhere. Oh, hey, I saw you at the Central Indiana DSA meeting. It was really great to hear you talk. So um, apparently, one appearance is all I need to make an impression.
Um, One thing I also wanted to ask, have you been able to contact any of the unions in the district? Um, any of organized working groups that are kind of receptive to your campaign so far?
I have started uh, uh, making up a list of the local unions. I absolutely want to be involved with them and in contact with them as much as possible. I've been trying to get involved with my local unionized Starbucks stores, only to find out just yesterday that the union I've been trying very hard to get in contact with is actually not currently active.
Oh no.
So, a little bit of a dead end on that one for now. But I there is another store in the city that's unionized, and I'm going to be working with them with their upcoming strike. And yeah, I've never worked with a union. I've never had that honor, but I am still very much pro union, and I want to do whatever I can for our unions.
And for those who want to kind of plan whether or not they're able to volunteer, when is the upcoming primary date?
It May or June. I know that my campaign manager is watching right now if she can drop that in one of these chats for me, but it was May or June.
Okay. Several
So
months away
yeah,
yet.
I've got a little while to build some momentum.
Um, and one last time, if people want to reach out and help with your campaign, they can go to youngfor61.com and go to the contact page and shoot you an email.
Absolutely. I would love to hear from anybody who wants to say anything.
And for my part, I wish you the best of luck because I looked up prior to our conversation, what exactly past primaries have looked like for Matt Pierce, and of course he runs uncontested, but what does that mean for voter turnout? And it turns out, his last Democratic primary, he only got 4,007 votes. So this is, I think, more doable than a lot of people might even realize. Like, this is the perfect environment for a small, dedicated group of people volunteering to knock doors. Could genuinely get enough turnout to make a difference.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen from Mamdani really will prove that when you give people a reason to get out and vote, they'll turn up.
Hmm.
And so here I am. I'm going to give you a reason, and that reason is I genuinely do believe I'm better than what we've been sitting with.
Well, Liliana Young, I wish you the best of luck and thank you so much for your time tonight.
And thank you so much, my sister, for having me on. I do very much appreciate your time and your platform.
A pleasure. I hope next time you come on, it will be victorious.
Let's make it happen.
Have a good one. That was an absolutely lovely conversation. Lilliana Young for Indiana House District 61. Folks, please go check out Lilliana Young's website. Wonderful positioning. Great, strong candidate who actually gives a damn for the people who work and live in that district. And guys, this is genuinely, when I talk about like politics that we can make a difference in just as a community, I know that there is currently how many people watching right now? There's like 300-ish people watching. If just 20 of you got involved to volunteer on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis, pitching in with Liliana's campaign, genuinely, you could knock enough doors to flip this seat. It is absolutely possible. It is absolutely doable. And I know that there are people in Indiana in this community who are like more than willing to turn out. And I'm letting you guys know this is a perfect opportunity for you guys to turn up, to hone your organizing skills and your door knocking skills and maybe your phone banking skills. And this is a perfect opportunity where those can actually make or break a campaign. So, folks, turn out for Liliana Young. And with that, if you enjoyed this segment, like, comment, and subscribe. Share it around. Let people know about Liliana Young's campaign. Let's start the process of flipping Indiana. I saw a few people in chat say, Indiana's government sucks, but it doesn't have to. And instead of a government that is working only for the wealthy and the powerful, the kinds of people who are going to build helicopter pads at their house, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I saw that the governor of Indiana was flying to and from his house using a state police helicopters. It's unthinkable to me, an unthinkable waste of public resources. And that's just commonplace in Indiana at this point. Like, it's interesting to me, and I hope that, folks, let's get these people out. That money that is being spent on helicopter pads on the personal property of the governor, that money that is being spent flying the governor to and from his own private property so that he can, have comfortable little vacations rather than serve the people from the governor's mansion, that could be spent helping working people. We're talking about the city of Bloomington, where like people need food drives to get by. This is absolutely doable.
How can you expect to be a helicopter parent without a helicopter pad?
Socket Tanuki. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. But also, folks, Liliana Young. Let's go. Youngfor61.com. Volunteer. Donate. It will make a huge difference because, again, every dollar spent on these smaller races, every volunteer that dedicates their time, your impact is so much bigger on races like this. So, folks, go figure your stuff out. Figure out how you can help Liliana get elected. And with that, like, comment, subscribe, share, do the things, and we're going to keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.